Hey, folks, are you like me? Do you want your air to be clean as opposed to not clean? Of course you do. And of course, you don't necessarily want a huge filter like we had in the office, during the COVID days. Well, there's another solution that is both like literally green. Neopx is the first bioengineered living air purifier designed to purify the air in your home. It's a plant, but it's a special plant. First off, you know that indoor air can be 5 times more polluted than outdoors, mainly because of things like, varnishes on furniture and off-gassing from your mattress. Volatile organic compounds, VOCs, constantly emitted from all sorts of different products. Neopx was invented by PhD scientists to target 3 of the most harmful VOCs found in your home, and it's up to 30 times better than a regular houseplant at fighting indoor air pollution. It's based on 5 years of research and development to enable Neopx to capture and recycle VOCs into useful matter like sugar and amino acids. And the science is in these things, the power drops they got. They're actually it's actually a powder. You pour some water mix it up into this powder. You pour it into the plant soil to supercharge Neopx's air pollution capacity. Neopx comes with a self-watering planter called the shell, so you only have to water it every 2 to 3 weeks, which is really important for people like me who have a sordid history of killing plants. Put up that picture again, Bradley. We got this thing in the office. There it is. And it grows down. Ours is twice the size of that now, and it grows down. It's great for hanging plants, great for on shelves. Who doesn't love houseplants, and who doesn't love a houseplant that cleans the air in a way that no other houseplant ever has or ever could? When you purchase Neopx, you're going to receive 6 Power Drop sachets, as it is, or little packets. And to celebrate the launch, Neoplants is offering a 7th packet free of charge. That's 1 extra month of pure air. Just click the link below, neoplants.com/majority, and the code's going to be applied automatically at checkout. That's neoplants.com/majority. Code will be applied automatically. Shipping available in the U.S. and soon to many more countries. So check it out. And now, time for the show.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
It is Wednesday, June 5th, 2024. My name is Sam Seder. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Meron Rapoport, editor of Local Call and writer at 972 Magazine, on this blockbuster story of Israel surveilling the International Criminal Court. Meanwhile, Biden's illegal immigrant asylum executive order is issued. The border is effectively shut down. New York Times reports that Israel ran a covert disinfo campaign to sway U.S. elected Democrats, particularly black Democrats. Shah's, the ultra-Orthodox party in the Netanyahu coalition, announces support for a ceasefire. Andy Kim wins in New Jersey primary, Uncommitted gets over 9% of the vote in New Mexico, over 8% in New Jersey. Modi cries betrayal as his party just misses a majority and has to form a coalition government. 3 Trump aides and attorneys charged in Wisconsin over another fake elector scheme. Chuck Schumer to deploy wedge votes in the Senate, starting with today with a procedural vote on the Right to Contraception Act. Yes, we are still talking about the right to contraception in this country. 18 more Starbucks stores file for unionization, and Amazon labor union and the Teamsters announce an affiliation agreement. Members to vote on that soon. Eric Adams, mayor of New York, also sort of under investigation by the cops, oddly decides to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on a cop city in Queens. This after slashing all sorts of services, including the library. Lastly, a new study, Earth is warming at a record rate that scientists can't even explain with their models of global climate change. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is
Hump Day.
Hump Day. That's right. I sort of thought that it was Hump Day. I think like on Monday, I thought it was Wednesday, and
Yes.
on Tuesday, I thought it was it was.
I think we were all thrown off by the 3-day weekend prior. That's
Yes.
what we can chalk it up to.
I think it's Mercury being in retrograde.
Yeah, or it
Could've
could be.
been
I mean, it could be the combination of both. Nevertheless, it is in fact now actually Hump Day. We got a lot to get to. I should just say that I recorded this interview with Meron Rapoport on Friday of last week. And of course, there was big news on Friday that we have our first former president as a convicted felon. So that
breaking glass ceilings and shackles.
Records all over the place.
Exactly. You know, it's always important to be a superlative. And so we held this in part because obviously we wanted to cover that, but also this is a story that completely seemed to have gone under the radar because I think to a large extent, there's a lot of people who don't want to talk about it because, and you know, if you combine what we now know about Israel's assault on the ICC, secret assault, The Guardian had a set of pieces. Meron Rapoport had an On Call, and 972 Mag had like a sort of concurrent reporting around this. And now this huge story that the New York Times has broken about Israel deploying AI bots basically to, I don't know, I mean, convince people like Hakeem Jeffries, Richie Torres, that their constituents really want them to be supportive of Israel.
Probably only need the old Chat GPT for Richie Torres.
Well, that's the thing, is that you got to wonder if like Richie Torres is going like, oh, wait a second. I was getting such good feedback, and now all of a sudden, but we'll talk more about that. I mean, honestly, right? Like,
yes, and well, I mean,
in that office, he's like, I've gone out on a limb. That's because I thought I had so much support from Twitter.
It should be getting more attention, as you say, because this was basically the accusation and like the valid accusations leveled at Russia for their level of interference in the 2016 election, where they were, paying for bots, they were engaging in disinformation. Israel is doing that, and I don't know if if the scale is greater or less or equivalent, but still should be more of a story.
Yep. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later in the program. But this Meron Rapoport, like I said, we recorded on Friday, and we're going to play in a moment. But first, and what did I do now with my sound sheet? I lost my sound sheet already.
Do you want me to
I don't even know
set
how to
this
do
up
it
here?
Well, yeah. Here's the first. I know the first clip. Joe Biden has announced his executive order. The gist of it is that when border crossings, legal ones, incidentally, where asylum seekers come to the border and seek refuge in this country, and if those numbers are over 2,500 in any given week, then the president has the authority, according to this executive order, of shutting the border down. And then once he or she does, the border cannot be reopened until there is 7 contiguous days in which the number of people applying at the border, or I saying showing up at the border, is 1,500 or less. Now, this is very similar to something that Donald Trump did during his administration and was rejected by the courts. The ACLU has already come out and said they're going to challenge this. I hope they win. It's disgusting. It is contrary to U.S. law. It is contrary to international law. I think the UN has already weighed in on this and said this is illegal. Once you step foot in the United States and seek asylum, you are due a process in which to determine whether you qualify for that asylum or not. And it really is horrific. And is it all about politics?
Yes.
I assume so.
Well, because border apprehensions are down 50% since December. So if this were actually about any crisis, as opposed to, say, trying to give himself what he perceived as a political victory before the debate in a few weeks, because he's going to want to have something to say to Trump when he talks about the border. I mean, there's really no evidence to suggest that it's because of some massive surge that's out of control.
I mean, it is. Well, let's listen to Joe Biden first.
I believe that immigration has always been the lifeblood of America. We're constantly renewed by an infusion of people and new talent. The Statue of Liberty is not some relic of American history. It stands for who we are as the United States. So I will never demonize immigrants. I'll never refer to immigrants as poisoning the blood of a country. And further, I'll never separate children from their families at the border. I will not ban people from this country because of their religious beliefs. I will not use the U.S. military to go into neighborhoods all across the country to pull millions of people out of their homes and away from their families to put detention camps while awaiting deportation, as my predecessor says he will do if he occupies his office again. On my very first day as president, I introduced a comprehensive immigration reform plan to fix our broken system, secure our border, provide pathways for citizenship for dreamers, and a lot more. And I'm still fighting to get that done. But we must face the simple truth. To protect America as a land that welcomes immigrants, we must first secure the border and secure it now. The simple truth is, there is a worldwide migrant crisis. And if the United States doesn't secure our border, there's no limit to the number of people who may try to come here, because there's no better place on the planet than the United States of America. For those who say the steps I've taken are too strict, I say to you that be patient. And goodwill of American people are wearing thin right now. Doing nothing is not an option. We have to act. We must act consistent with both our law and our values as Americans.
I mean, let's just for a moment, give Joe Biden the benefit of the doubt here that this is a measure in which, be patient. This is a measure which is aimed towards, the American public's patience is running out. And this is a measure that's going to assuage that fear and deal with this problem so that Americans can rationally deal with it. This is a fundamental misunderstanding of what's going on and a total act of cowardice. This will not change the polling on immigration one single iota. It will not change. It will not get Joe Biden higher marks on immigration. None of it. None of that will happen. And they will continue, and the Republicans will continue to say the exact same thing yesterday as they do tomorrow. This is if you, and I don't even think it's necessarily something that the president had to address, period. There are a lot of other issues in which to address. But the fact is that there was a lot of sympathy for immigrants during Trump's years, and it could have been built upon.
Oh,
he could have, he could, the other way to politically address this is to actually address the issue and win the war of the idea around immigration. Which
as opposed to ceding all the framing to the right. It's horrible.
100%.
I think it's whatever gains they're hoping for in the short term are marginal compared to the long-term damage they're doing to the way to differentiate themselves on this topic. Because, like, what he says there, I'm not going to say immigrants are poisoning the blood of this country. Oh, that's lovely. You're not going to say like something that Nazis would say. That's great.
The policy will reflect it.
But I'm going to do something very like functionally equivalent to Donald Trump's asylum ban back when he was in office. And the same liberals I see either being silent or cheering this on were protesting that. I mean, that's just like partisan hypocrisy, obviously. But the other thing that is a part of this is that they're also going to cut into the time frame where migrants can consult with an attorney after when they're seeking asylum from 24 hours, which was already insufficient, to 4. Yeah. So let's not pretend that this is some way like him approaching immigration from any humane position point. I mean, there's nothing that from an action standpoint that would back up his claim that he's being humane in any way or honoring the spirit of the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah. Here is Representative Ilhan Omar speaking out against this executive action. And one can only hope that let's listen to what she says, and then we'll talk about the ACLU.
I share your heartbreak and betrayal. I love this country, as many immigrants who do get the opportunity to come to this country do. The United States has been a beacon of hope for those fleeing persecution, violence, and oppression. Today's executive order undermines that legacy. Not only is this order a betrayal of the principle upon which this nation was built, it flies in the face of basic morality. Seeking asylum is a fundamental human right enshrined both in American and international law. If the Biden administration is serious about addressing the border crisis, the way to do that is to create more and quicker legal pathways, not to put asylum laws to the side. We have to remember that the victims of this policy will be the innocent. I want to center what it truly means for people fleeing unthinkable situations. I am today thinking about the mothers fleeing her home in Central America who has 2 children escaping brutal violence. I'm thinking about the father who made the atrocious journey from Cameroon because his only choice was to face the constant threats of death and make the journey. I'm thinking about the teenager whose community has been destroyed by climate crisis, who knows her only chance of a better life will be found in the United States.
She understands this, obviously, as somebody who was a refugee and came to this country fleeing political violence.
Yeah, good for Cassara and Ayanna Pressley, and also Julian Castro. hitting Biden on this too.
There are a couple of exceptions, which I also think are going to end up being are going to end up creating more tragedy. Frankly, unaccompanied children, some victims of trafficking, and migrants facing acute medical emergencies or imminent threats to their safety. Now, I don't know how you assess the imminent threats to their safety when you have four hours to get to an attorney before they boot you out of the country. But if I'm showing up at the border and I'm afraid of my children because of whatever it is in Honduras gangs or drug trafficking in Mexico or whatever it is that has caused, or I can't feed my children, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make them unaccompanied children with the hopes that they end up getting reaching their cousins or their relatives in the United States. And so we're going to end up seeing a surge of unaccompanied children at the border because of this exception here. Because the administration doesn't want to be seen as heartless to children as opposed to heartless to their parents as well. And my hope is that the ACLU and who announced immediately that they were going to challenge it will prevent this. I mean, be able to enjoin it. I don't know how quickly they can do that. But what's really sort of like upsetting about this is that the Biden administration has been very meticulous in attempting to avoid, in certain instances, running afoul of the courts on, certain executive orders. And here, the speed in which they have deployed this without allowing the courts any time to stop it just seems, I don't know. It's just horrible. It's just, and I think it's bad politics.
I think so too. I mean, this is another example outside of Israel where the Biden administration is knowingly and actively flouting international law. When they came into office on this promise that they'd restore respectability and a rules-based international order, asylum rights are international law, and it's also domestic U.S. law. So I hope the ACLU is successful, but just from a political perspective, Biden trying to be like the good guy in contrast to Trump, I'm not sure how many people care about this, but for me, I think it's bad politics in terms of undercutting what the coalitions and the image you're trying to portray.
Yep. All right. We're going to take a break in just a moment, and we will, I'll be back with Meron Rapoport, editor of Local Call and writer at 972 Magazine. We spoke to him. I think he was in Jerusalem. Was he, Bradley?
He lives in Tel Aviv, but I don't know if maybe he was.
I
would assume he was in Tel Aviv.
Yeah, from Tel Aviv. About this story, reporting both in 972 Mag and On Call and in The Guardian regarding the Israeli sort of covert assault on the ICC over the past decade. We'll talk more about that in a moment. First, when you go to the bathroom, you close the door, don't you? Because you want your privacy. You don't want random passerbys looking in. I don't know what random passerbys.
Unless that's what you're into.
Unless that's what you're into.
Don't yuck anybody's yum.
Exactly. But nobody wants to do that when they're online. Using the internet without ExpressVPN is like going to the bathroom and not closing the door and not getting any kink value out of it.
Is that from the copy?
That's not written in the copy, but it's true. Look, it doesn't matter. I mean, I particularly am very careful when I'm out and about, and particularly like I get very nervous about any type of public Wi-Fi. But even when I'm home, I never go online without using ExpressVPN. It is super easy to use this. I want to thank ExpressVPN for supporting the Majority Report, and here's the deal. You visit expressvpn.com/majority and you get an extra 3 months for free. ExpressVPN, it's super easy. It's like any other app in terms of like when you get it on your phone, get it on your smart TV, get it on your computer, and then literally all you have to do is press one button. And then you're using a VPN. And what ExpressVPN does is it creates a secure encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet. So your online activity can't be seen by anybody. See, the internet is a series of tubes. Does anybody remember that? No.
Yeah.
I do, yeah.
Vaguely. Well, in this instance, yeah, exactly. In this instance, the tube or the tunnel is encrypted. So it's as easy as closing the bathroom door. All you do, again, fire up the app, click one button. ExpressVPN is rated #1 by The Verge and Tech Radar. It works on phones, laptops, and you can also install it on your router. So everyone who shares your Wi-Fi can be protected. Secure your online activity by visiting expressvpn.com/majority today. That's expressvpn.com/majority. You get an extra 3 months free. expressvpn.com/majority. Also, I should say, pretty good for watching stuff outside of your region, because you can make it like you're not in the United States. He whispers. Also, summer's here. More time outside. Who knows what you're doing out there, but you got to wear your SPF, wear your hat, and also now is the perfect time to start taking Nutrafol. What is Nutrafol? It is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement. Has over 1 million people seeing thicker, stronger, faster growing hair with less shedding. I repeat the same story all the time, but they wanted to advertise years ago, tried to get Michael to try it. He had a little bit of thinning going on. He wasn't interested. Years later, I'm like, oh, well, I'm starting to get a little bit thinning weirdly on one side of my head. It may have been, I don't know, something may have happened when I was delivered. But the point is that I started taking it, and basically I did it because it's 100% drug free. There's no side effects like compromising your sex life. It is provides consistent, reliable results because they have tested not just the separate ingredients, but they have done clinical tests on all the final formulations of Nutrafol to ensure their efficacy. Clinical study, 84% of men showed improvement in their hair after 6 months taking Nutrafol's men's hair growth supplements. I know it's working for me because I'm getting a lot of tiny hairs, like little flyaway type of things. And with Nutrafol, building this hair growth routine is super easy. You purchase it online. You don't need a prescription. You don't need a doctor's visit. Free shipping, automated deliveries ensure you'll never miss a day. You will see results within 3 to 6 months. Take the first step towards achieving your hair growth goals. For a limited time, Nutrafol offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com/men. Enter the promo code TMR. Find out why over 4,500 healthcare professionals and stylists recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com/men, spelled Nutrafol.com/men. Promo code TMR. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code TMR. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be talking to Meron Rapoport, editor of Local Call and writer at 972 Magazine. We are back. Sam Seder on the Majority Report. It is a pleasure to welcome back to the program Meron Rapoport, editor at Local Call and a writer at 972 Magazine. Meron, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
The last time we spoke, I think, was probably at sometime around this now last year, when you were reporting on the massive protests about the attempt by the Netanyahu government to so-called reform, essentially, the laws regarding your Supreme Court in Israel. Things have obviously are very different now. And I'd like to talk about that. But first, obviously, I want to talk about this amazing reporting that you participated in as both editor at Local Call and a writer at 972 Magazine. Also, The Guardian was reporting on this. And I want to just start before we go into the details of this story. It was just revealed yesterday by his name, I think, is Gur Megiddo, who is a writer at Haaretz, that Haaretz had at least parts of this story that they were reporting back in 2022, and he was brought in by Israeli authorities as they're investigating this attempt by Israel to blackmail the then ICC prosecutor, in addition to all the surveillance, and we'll talk about that. But he was brought in and essentially told, if you publish the story, I'm just going to read from this. When he wanted to publish the story, he got a phone call from the senior security official from Israel. Can you come in and see me tomorrow? The conversation began with words, he writes later. We understand you know about the prosecutor, referring to the ICC prosecutor. And Megiddo writes, it was a polite conversation, a polite threat. It was explained that if I published the story, I would suffer the consequences and get to know the interrogation rooms of the Israeli security authorities from the inside. In the end, it was made clear to me that even sharing the information, quote, with my friends abroad, referring to foreign media outlets, would lead to the same results. And so I just want to start by saying, not only congratulations, but to make it clear how much is at stake in your reporting of this. What do you make? Were you aware that the Haaretz writer had gone through this process?
No, we didn't. We didn't know that. We knew that Gur Megiddo did publish a report about Yossi Cohen, the former head of the Mossad. He was head of the Mossad at that time. That he had strange visits in Congo, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and something had to do with the former president of Congo, Joseph Kabila, and that he was later deported almost from Congo. We knew that, and we had a hint that it was related to the prosecutor issue, but we didn't know more than that. We certainly didn't know that he was threatened in this way by the Israeli authorities.
Have you received, prior to publishing this or in the course of the reporting, have you received threats from the Israeli authorities? Because I have to say, and we'll talk about this in a moment, the nature of the threats to the ICC prosecutor, the former ICC chief prosecutor, these were not sort of official threats, as it were. These were threats of blackmail and extortion, and sort of extra, outside the law, essentially. I don't know how else to articulate that.
Yes, that's the way it seems. I have to make it clear. We did an investigation for several months together. I'm talking Local Call in 972 with the Guardian, a shared joint investigation with the Guardian regarding what we call the almost 10 years war, secret war of Israel against the ICC, against the International Criminal Court in The Hague. Surveillance by the Israeli army and other intelligence agencies. While we were investigating this, The Guardian has come out with this own report about the whole Yossi Cohen's affair and really this incredible story about how he threatened personally and what seems, according to this report, as a director trying to blackmail Bensouda, the former prosecutor in The Hague, Fatou Bensouda. Yes, but so in this, I don't know much more than was written by the report in The Guardian. Of course, I know the reporter. I personally, I trust him totally. He's super reliable, but I don't know too much. But yes, what is described there, I think it is hard to describe it else otherwise than blackmail and threatening.
Okay, so let's step back for a moment and talk about what you have reported, which essentially starts with for nearly a decade, Israel's been surveilling senior international criminal court officials at The Hague, Palestinian human rights workers as well, and other UN officials, anybody who might be in any way participating in the recording or the noting of human rights violations by Israel military and officials perpetrated upon Palestinians in the West Bank and presumably in Gaza and within Israel proper. What was the nature of, at first, the surveillance, and who authorized this surveillance, and for what purpose?
As far as we know, it came directly from Prime Minister Netanyahu. Netanyahu was very worried, and in our report we say he was obsessed by the procedures in the ICC. From the very beginning, what happened is that Palestine was accepted as member of the ICC in 2015, right after it was accepted as a member of the UN General Assembly. It was accepted as a member of the ICC. It signed the Rome Statute. And then right afterwards, the PA, the Palestinian Authority, filed a complaint to the ICC about alleged war crimes committed by Israel in the West Bank and Gaza. And the then prosecutor, Fatou Bensouda, opened a preliminary investigation at that stage. From that moment on, as we reported, Netanyahu was obsessed with this investigation, and he first of all set some kind of a special team composed of many intelligence agencies, from the Army Intelligence, A200, and the Mossad and Shabak, all in concerted effort to let's say, to surveil, if I will put it in the most, in the words authorized by the Israeli censorship, to surveil anything that has to do with the ICC. It means officials of the ICC, like Bensouda and other, and then afterwards the current prosecutor Karim Khan, and the Palestinian who communicated with them, meaning mainly human rights activists and officials of the PA who were responsible for filing all kind of reports about alleged war crimes done committed by Israel in the occupied territories. So that was a long process, very detailed, they were really obsessed, and people in the army, especially in the intelligence of the army, were felt, as they told us, they felt quite uncomfortable that they are being used, that it's an army intelligence meant to combat, threats, military threats on Israel, and not political threats, and not threats of officials being indicted in The Hague, and where they felt unease being used, that the technology and the know-how was being used for completely political targets instead of military ones.
Now, your reporting outlines that the surveillance that these various Israeli the spy agencies did and intelligence agencies did was to intercept the charges or complaints, essentially, of Israeli actions towards Palestinians as a way of then attempting to meet with the ICC prosecutor. And Israel does not acknowledge that the ICC prosecutor has any jurisdiction or, on some level, even officially exists as a prosecutor, I guess, as a way of addressing these complaints without and simultaneously essentially pretending that they don't know that they exist. So offering information as if they're just offering information that is, but really hoping to undercut the validity of these claims by offering, and I presume, we don't know the exact nature of this information that they provided to the ICC, so we can't really judge its validity. Is that right?
Yes, there were two main things. One is really surveilling the communications of Bensouda and then of the current prosecutor, Karim Khan, with Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza, surveilling the communication between them, knowing what is interesting for them. What do they ask their Palestinian counterpart, but what are their intentions? This is one thing. Then, yes, as you said, they monitored and tried to get hold of documents that were passed by the Palestinian, either human rights activists or officials of the Palestinian Authority, with information about alleged crimes. Now, there were, what was said is that the reason they did it is what it exists in the court, in the ICC, there is this rule of what is called complementarity, meaning that if a state does investigate seriously crimes, alleged crimes, then the ICC cannot investigate the same crime, the same allegation. Israel, who usually does not investigate allegation against its military personnel in the West Bank and Gaza, in this way try to get all of this information and reopen or open, initiate investigation that it did not in the beginning. The fear also was by the ICC officials is that in these documents that were passed to the ICC, there were sometimes names of Palestinian who complained, private person, and there was a concern in the ICC and also by Palestinian human rights activists that once their names will be known to the Israeli authorities, they could be harmed or blackmailed, as we know many times happens when Israel is, for example, saying to a person, if you don't give us information, we will not give you a permit to work in Israel, or will not give a permit for your mother to go to a hospital in Israel, or things like that. So there was this fear. We don't know if such a use, if it was used or abused, this information in order to threaten Palestinian individuals. We don't know, but the fear was in the ICC and in the Palestinian human rights organization that such a use will be done. And what has to be added there, that what we find out, and I think this is also quite troubling, although Israel does not recognize the authority of the ICC, it is not a party to the Rome Statute, and so it's not part of the ICC, as the US, as Russia and China and other democracies like the Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and other great democracies like them. Although it's not a part, what we discovered is that there were unofficial channels in which officials from the Ministry of Justice and Ministry of Foreign Affairs went to The Hague and met with officials in the ICC, presumably with Bensouda herself, and in order to, in an unofficial way, to try to persuade her that there are no crimes being committed and that she doesn't have a jurisdiction. Now, what we found out is that these lawyers were in possession of this information that was obtained by this, I cannot call it otherwise, illegal surveillance on the team of the ICC. So there was a very strange situation in which legal experts went to The Hague to discuss issues with the ICC officials, but having an information that they obtained through surveillance. So it's a quite funny situation.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously raises some major questions about the integrity of these legal officials who are using extra, legal or illegal means in which to further their supposed legally principled arguments. We should also say that, as you mentioned earlier, The Guardian reported that the Mossad ran a parallel operation of surveillance that seems to have been far more focused on the on Bensouda and her close family as a way of blackmail, extortion, to convince her, not based upon any legal principles, but rather on how messy this will be for you and your family if you go forward with these things. I want to jump forward. When Kamir Khan announced his seeking of indictments, I found that, which I had no reason, I guess, to look for prior to this, that in 2021, when he replaced the former chief prosecutor, Israel was very happy about this, and it comes up in the context of your reporting. They felt that, like, okay, how much do we have a sense as to whether Bensouda, who was the then prosecutor, whether she left? Is any part of her departure a function of, like, this has become too tenuous for me, with the sort of like this hanging over my head?
No, as far as I know, it's a tenure of 9 years. The prosecutors are being elected for 9 years, and she finished her term. So I don't have information that she left because of that. It was known in advance. What was said, not officially, of course, is that, first of all, what happened is that in 2019, Bensouda, as I told you, she began her investigation in 2015 in the Palestine case. In 2019, she reached the conclusion that there is a basis for an official investigation. She finished her preliminary investigation and decided that there is enough evidence for a formal investigation. But instead of opening this investigation, she went to the court, to the pre-trial court, in order to for the court to approve that it has jurisdiction over Palestine. This is a legal thing, but in Israel, we had some sources saying that in Israel, it was interpreted as a success for Israel because this whole process that she went for the pre-trial, asking if it has to decide if it has jurisdiction, this delayed the investigation for almost a year and a half. So in Israel, it was conceived as a success. Whether that has anything to do with the pressures on Bensouda, we have no idea, no confirmation for that. But we know that in Israel it was interpreted, some legal expert interpreted as a success.
And once that, if you could just clarify for the timeline for me, once it was established that the ICC felt like we do have jurisdiction here, despite the delay, at that point, because the IDF and others had been spying on and intercepting surveillance to the ICC, they knew who were collecting and recording the allegations that could end up being used in prosecutions against Israeli authorities. And they then took that opportunity to say that these organizations, these NGOs, Palestinian ones, were in fact not, they were terrorist organizations, as a way of, I presume, and you tell me, preempting the validity of the evidence they had collected.
Yes, it's part also from as we try to depict, to portray in our report. It's a long one, but still there are many more details that were left out. Part of the campaign against the ICC was to delegitimize the Palestinian Human Rights Organization. That was even official. The Ministry for Strategic Affairs started this work to delegitimize the human rights organization which are accusing Israel of committing war crimes. So this was something that was going on for since at least 2017 and maybe even before. So in parallel to what was going between Israel and the ICC, between these surveillance efforts, there was a process in order to delegitimize this organization. And in October 2021, if I'm not mistaken, the Minister of Defense, then Minister of Defense, Benny Gantz, declared 6 human rights organizations, including 2 or 3 that were very central to the accusation in The Hague, declared them a terrorist organization. Now, this was not, of course, the main goal was the same, to fail any process in the ICC against Israel and Israeli officials, but it's not sure that it was connected directly. That we have even some sources in the IDF saying that they were not happy with Benny Gantz's decision, that they didn't think that it was worthwhile declaring this organization terrorist organization, that the information that was at the basis of declaring them terrorist organization that was obtained by the Shabak was not strong. And as you know, at that time, it was found that there were Pegasus spyware on some of the phones, of the cellular phones of officials in this organization. So it could be separate operations, but the goal was the same.
So let's turn to, I'm curious, I mean, all of this would suggest that there was real concern by Netanyahu, and I imagine other, Israeli authorities, that over the course of at least a decade, that the ICC would take the action, essentially, that they have taken now, and that they could continue to take in a moment. How has the potential for criminal indictments against Netanyahu and Gallant, I guess it is, how has that been? How has the Israeli public reacted to that?
Well, when Karim Khan declared that he is going to the court asking from the court to issue this arrest warrant for Netanyahu and Gallant, I would say that the huge majority, almost a consensus in the Jewish Israeli society, parties, press, was furious. Saying this is an anti-Semitic move, that it compared, because, as you know, there were arrest warrants against Yahya Sinwar and Mohammed Deif, leaders of Hamas, who were responsible for the atrocious attack of Hamas on October 7th, 2023. So as if they are comparing Netanyahu to Sinwar, and they were furious. So in this respect, this operation that we are discussing in itself, maybe most of the Israeli society maybe accept, because if this court is doing these horrible things like issuing arrest warrant for our prime minister, then maybe this operation was
warranted,
was needed.
Wow. Yeah.
But I would say that there are 2 levels here. One is, of course, the personal level. Netanyahu feared to be indicted, as he was indicted at the end. senior military commanders also feared that they will be indicted, and this was one of the reasons for which the army was involved, the army intelligence was involved. But I would add another level. I think that Israel does understand that this is not just a personal issue. It's not just a personal fate of Netanyahu or Gallant or maybe later Gantz, so I don't know who, or Herzi Halevi, the chief of staff, the current chief of staff, we don't know. It's much more than that, because it's once high officials, and they couldn't be higher than Netanyahu and Defense Minister Gallant, once such higher officials are indicted, it sheds a light of delegitimization on the whole of the state of Israel, of the whole of its activity. So it's not just, the personal issue. Nobody wants to be indicted. Nobody wants, once you are indicted, there are 132 states that are signatories to this treaty, so you cannot go there to France or to Germany or to South America or to most of the African countries. It's not just a personal thing. It's the situation of the state of Israel. And I would add another thing. I think this is, of course, not something we've written in the report, but this is my personal take. Israel knows that it is committing what could amount to crimes in the West Bank and Gaza. It knows that, or at least it suspects that this is the way that the world, the international law will conceive that. Maybe they feel that they do it for just reasons, but they know. And I think the hysteria of bringing all these security intelligence agencies is at the heart stands this being conscious that we are not doing the right thing.
And I imagine there's a similar dynamic around the ICJ's investigation and now, essentially enjoining or attempting to, issue a restraining order against Israel's assault on Rafah, which my understanding is that they've now brought in ground troops. Do you have a sense, and that there is any opportunity for the general sentiment in Israel to are there fissures developing where you might see, instead of just defensiveness, that it begins to sort of change the consciousness or what? I mean, this is analogous to the conversation we were having about half of the country protesting against what Netanyahu wanted to do with this, the judiciary. The question was, was there going to be an expansion of the consciousness that this authoritarianism is actually imported from just miles away in the West Bank or in Gaza, and this might create a broader social movement? It didn't appear, to the extent that there was any opportunity for that to happening. Obviously, it's not. That's not happening. But is there any sort of because my understanding is from reading that there's not a lot of information that is getting to Israelis about what's happening in Gaza, or at least the specifics or the images, or, whether it's actually the facts or whether it's being absorbed? I know I've talked to people who've been doing reporting from the West Bank, and they say they go to Tel Aviv, and when they tell stories of what they've seen in the West Bank, people are like, no way. When you get this reflection from the ICJ and this stuff from the ICC, does that pierce that sort of denial?
In a way, yes. In a way, no. As I told you before, the first reaction, immediate reaction for the arrest warrant, for the demand for the arrest warrant, because the arrest warrant were not issued yet, but it's quite probable that they will, not so quite soon. The reaction was very furious. But I would say, with the addition of the ICJ, even more the ICJ than the ICC, because Israel is a part of the ICJ. The ICJ is an organ of the UN, and any country that is a member of the UN is a party to the ICJ, and Israel is, and it even defended itself in the ICJ, what it did not do in the ICC. I think what is being pierced is not the moral responsibility for what Israel is doing in Gaza. But yes, I think there is an understanding, a growing, still not that wide, but a growing understanding how it is being viewed worldwide. How does the international community is viewing our war in Gaza, certainly in Rafah? And there, yes, I do see a change. Of course, there is, the right wing, the extreme right wing, which is still in power, and I don't see it falling so soon, that are saying, what's the problem? Smotrich, Finance Minister Smotrich said, exterminate everything, exterminate Bir Balach, exterminate Khan Yunis, everything. So there is a part, and not a small part, unfortunately, in the Israeli society, which is quite happy with extermination. But I think there is a growing part that maybe, to itself, it says that it is also morally wrong, but they don't dare to say so. But they do say, listen, what we are doing in Rafah, what we are doing in Gaza is being viewed by the international community, by the international legal system as war crimes. And if we do not change our conduct, if we don't change the way we act in Rafah, the way we fight in Rafah, then Israel will be totally a pariah state, that we are on the road, on the road to this there. I must add that the Guardian, the report in the Guardian about the way Yossi Cohen, the ex-chief of Mossad, behaved, the way he met personally, according to the report, he met personally Bensouda and threatened her personally. This is something that I think wide range in the Israeli society, saying, no, this is a mafia contact. The ex-head of the Mossad, the one who preceded Yossi Cohen, Tamir Pardo, said in an interview to us that this is a Cosa Nostra behavior.
Yeah.
So, yes, I think specifically the way Yossi Cohen allegedly behaved is considered as something really stupid and arrogant and dangerous, everything together. But I think, generally speaking, the ICJ, yes. I think many people in Israel fear that we are on the way of being completely isolated. And I have to add something here. Vladimir Putin was indicted by the same prosecutor, by Karim Khan, for abducting children, Ukrainian children, to Russia, allegedly, for his responsibility for that. But Russia, and I think the Russian public, I'm not an expert on Russia, but for Russian public to be considered not a part of the West, it's something that is quite normal. This is part of the ideology of Putin. For many years, he's talking about Russification and that the West is the origin of all evil. This is not the way Israelis conceive themselves. They conceive themselves as part of the West. They don't see themselves, no, we are alone in this world. No, this is not the way most Israelis. There are some, like Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, say, no, we are. There is a saying in Hebrew, Israel levadad tishkon, Israel will live alone. But this is a minority, according as I see it. The majority wants and believe that they are part of the West. And if we are, if all the organs of this West say that we behave like criminals, it's something that affects Israelis.
It's interesting, and I guess at least in terms of from an activist perspective outside of the country, it at least adds to the argument that increasing pressure on Israel from the outside may not change the moral assessment of what Israel is doing, but there is a practical, almost utilitarian perspective of that there's an opportunity for extreme isolation here, which I think very well may be the case. Meron Rapoport, we will obviously link to your piece and to the Guardian piece, and also to this piece in Haaretz, which makes it clear just how both important your reporting is and the level of jeopardy that's involved in it. And I really appreciate your coming on and talking to us about it. And I hope to speak to you again soon.
Thank you.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this. We are back. All right, folks. We're going to take a quick break, head into the fun half of the program, wherein we will have fun. Hump Day.
The entertaining PR half.
The entertaining PR half, where we self-promote and build our empire.
Oh, yes. Can't wait to do that. Libertarian caller by libertarian caller.
One libertarian, we stack one libertarian upon another. Build our empire. Folks, you can support this show by becoming a member. By going to jointhemajorityreport.com. When you do, you not only get access to the fun half, you help this show survive and thrive. Jointhemajorityreport.com. Also, don't forget, let's include the link to both the canvassing for Jamal Bowman that's going to take place on June 21st and 22nd, I think it is.
Yeah.
And also
or 22nd and 23rd, right? It's that Sunday and Saturday, I think. Yeah.
And also phone banking. DSA is doing phone banking. WFP is doing phone banking. We will put links to that as well. It's the 22nd and the 23rd. There's going to be canvassing. This is a really important race. And not only because I think Jamal Bowman is one of the best of the progressive House members, but also because of how, and because he's also coming from New York. I mean, this is a solidly blue district, and we should have as progressive left, if you want to say, congressperson is possible coming from there. And Latimer is just horrible on really, I mean, even from a mainstream Democrat perspective. Latimer has already said that he's going to push back on Joe Biden, raising taxes on corporations and wealthy people. I mean, this is about as base as it gets for a Democrat. And you have people like Mondaire Jones and the Democratic establishment of the state
Jay
Democrats
Jacobs and
promoting this guy, which is indicative of just really where their politics are at as well. So good opportunity. If you're out of the district, phone banking, very helpful. If you're in or out of the district, you can go and canvass as well. So check that out. We'll put those links in the YouTube and podcast description. And don't forget justcoffee.coop. Fair trade coffee from a co-op. So it's all employee owned. They are great to their suppliers, and it's great coffee. You can get the Majority Report blend as well, but even the WTF blend. But there's a ton. Put up all the different coffees that are there, Bradley. Justcoffee.coop. You will see that it is a co-op, C-O-O-P. Put that up on the screen. Yeah, scroll down to some of the actual coffees. Yeah, there's just the featured blends there. I mean, I can't quite.
Stampede, Humdinger, cold brew blend.
Yep, cold brew blends. You can just put it in.
Ooh, the WTF roast. Interesting.
Well, take it easy.
Above the Majority Report roast.
I know. We got to get the new logo on there too. All right, but check that out, folks. Emma, ESPN.
We spoke about and previewed the Eastern Conference. The finals in both the NBA and NHL. And then we also talked about some of the wide receiver contracts coming up in the NFL and this insane hysteria around Caitlin Clark, and what the media is doing irresponsibly in regards to it. YouTube.com/ESPN show.
What are they doing? What is the insane that she's too rough or something?
I kind of want to save it for the fun half because we have a clip of Clay Travis on Fox News, and you'll be able to experience this, illuminating discourse fresh.
Yeah, I mean race baiting.
Basically, yeah.
Matt.
Yeah, last night on Left Reckoning, Kurt Hackbarth of the Sober Ania podcast came on to talk about Claudia Scheinbaum's victory in Mexico, and also Mike Racine talking about his stand-up special, I'm Normal, which is very funny and available on YouTube for free. But we talked to Mike about doing stand-up in Europe, and also about, some advice for Tim Pool about being a father and advice to Stephen Crowder about being a husband. I think Mike gives some good
Tim
advice.
Pool a dad now?
No, it's all theoretical for him. So Mike actually is a dad. So we talked about that a little bit. So patreon.com/Left Reckoning, where we talked about Bill Maher on apartheid. And you'll never guess what the apartheid is. It's Muslims' treatment of women. So
Interesting. He's consistent. All right, folks. See you in the fun half. 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now. And I don't think it's going to be the same as it looks like in 6 months from now. And I don't know if it's necessarily going to be better 6 months from now than it is 3 months from now. But I think around 18 months out, we're going to look back and go like, wow. What? What is that going on? It's nuts. Wait a second. Hold on for a second.
The Majority Report.
Emma, welcome to the program.
Hey.
Matt.
What is up, everyone?
Nomi Key.
You did it. Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon.
Bradley, you want to say hello?
Sorry to disappoint everyone. I'm just a random guy.
It's all the boys today.
Fundamentally false.
No, I'm sorry. Women's
Stop talking for a second and let me finish.
Where is this coming from, dude?
But dude, you want to smoke this 7A?
Yes.
Hi, me? Is it?
Yes.
Is it me?
Is it me?
It is you.
It's me.
I think it is you. Who is you? No sound. Every single freaking day. What's on your mind?
Sports.
We can discuss free markets and we can discuss capitalism.
I'm gonna go throw up.
Libertarians. They're so stupid, though.
Common sense says, of course.
Gobbledygook.
We fucking nailed him.
So what's 79 plus 21?
Challenge met.
I'm positively quivering.
I believe 96, I want to say.
857-210-3501. 1 half. 3 eighths.
9/11, for instance.
$3,400, $1,900.
6, 5, 4, $3 trillion sold. It's a zero-sum game.
Actually, you're making me think less of it.
But let me say this. Poop.
You call it satire. Sam goes, it's satire.
On top of it all, my favorite part about you is just like every day, all day, like everything you do.
Without a doubt. Hey, buddy, we see you. All right, folks.
It's just the week being weeded out, obviously.
Yeah, sun's out, guns out. I don't know.
But you should know.
People just don't like to entertain ideas anymore.
I have a question. Who cares?
Our chat is enabled, folks.
I love it.
I do love that.
Look, gotta jump. Gotta be quick. I gotta jump.
I'm losing it, bro.
2 o'clock. We're already late, and the guy's being a dick. So screw him. Sent to a gulag?
Outrageous.
Like, what is wrong with you?
Love you, bye.
Love you. Bye-bye.
And back.
We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigland on the Majority Report. We will open up the phone lines in just a second. Let me just adjust that. There we go. I'm sorry. I was getting a little bit. Should we read